Okay, let's just try to picture this for a second. The year is 1640. The city of Boston is only 20 years old. It's brand new, basically a tiny outpost on the edge of a vast, and to them, totally unknown continent.
I got this message from a viewer recently, and it's just an incredible piece of family history. I mean, really think about that. Their ancestors weren't just immigrants. They were some of the very first people to call Boston home. They were true pioneers.
It's so easy for us to picture it as, the simple rustic past. But the reality? Oh, it was so much more complicated, so much harder, and honestly, so much more fascinating. So let's do this. Let's dive in and walk the muddy streets of a brand new Boston.
First things first, you gotta ask the big question. Why? Why would anyone leave their home in England, get on a rickety ship to cross a dangerous ocean, and just start over from scratch in the middle of the wilderness?
Well, the short answer is that England was basically a mess. The whole country was in chaos, both politically and religiously, and for a group of very devout Protestants we now call the Puritans, it was becoming a really hostile place to live. They genuinely felt their faith and their entire way of life were under attack.
So they left. They left in this huge exodus that historians call the Great Migration. And this timeline right here shows us exactly where our viewer's family fits into the story. Arriving in 1640, that puts them at the absolute peak of this historic wave.
And we're not talking about just a handful of people here. We're talking about 20,000 Englishmen, women, and children who packed up and fled to New England during this period, all of them looking for a new start.
And this part is so important to understand. Unlike a lot of other colonial projects, this was not a hunt for gold. It wasn't about grand adventure. For the Puritans landing in Boston, this was a mission. It was about finding the freedom to practice their religion their way and to build a brand new society from the ground up.
All right, so they survived that treacherous journey across the Atlantic. What did they find when they finally got here? What was life actually like in this new world?
Well, first off, in 1640, Boston wasn't a city. It was really just a rough, sprawling village of only about 1,500 people.
To put that into perspective for you, that is smaller than the student body of a lot of high schools today. It was an incredibly tiny, tight-knit community, really on the edge of the known world. So forget any image of paved streets and big brick buildings. The reality was simple wooden houses, dirt roads that turned into a muddy mess when it rained, and the air constantly smelled of wood smoke and salt from the sea. This was a place built for pure survival, where you knew everybody's name because, well, your life might actually depend on it. And their day-to-day lives reflected that. Homes were tiny, maybe 1 or 2 rooms, built around a huge central fireplace that was used for all the cooking and all the heat. Food was whatever you could grow or hunt or catch, so lots of corn, beans, and fish. And you wasted nothing. Clothing was all practical, made of wool and linen, no bright colors, no fancy designs. And work? Oh, that was constant, from dawn till dusk. Everybody had a job to do. Now, the foundation for all of this, the operating system for the entire colony, was Puritanism. And you have to understand, it wasn't just a religion you practiced on Sundays. It was the law. It was the government. It was the social fabric holding the whole place together. The church was the absolute center of life. And those rules were strict. I mean, if you just skipped a church service, you could be fined. If you dared to openly question the religious leaders, you could be banished from the colony, completely cast out into the wilderness. Life was orderly for sure, but it was also incredibly harsh. And that harshness went way beyond just the community rules. I mean, every single day was a battle just to stay alive. The climate itself was an enemy. New England winters were so much more brutal than anything they'd ever known back home. Your survival literally depended on whether you had enough food and firewood stored up to make it through the cold. On top of that, with no modern medicine, diseases like smallpox could just sweep through the town and have absolutely devastating results. And, a single bad harvest or a poor fishing season, that meant the very real, very constant threat of starvation. Every day was a fight. And they weren't entering an empty land. They had to navigate a really complex and often difficult relationship with the native peoples who had lived there for millennia. And while there were definitely moments of cooperation and trade, the arrival of the English also brought devastating disease, deep mistrust, and ultimately violent conflict over land and resources. But this is the most amazing part of the story to me. Through all of that struggle, all that hardship, they weren't just surviving.
They were building. This is what is so incredible to realize. A family arriving in 1640 wasn't just a resident. They were a founder. They were laying the literal and the cultural foundations for one of America's greatest cities, right as it was being born.
Just think about that transformation for a second. From this tiny, fragile settlement on the edge of nowhere to the foundational city we know today, you really start to get a sense of the scale of what they achieved. Every single beam they raised, every field they cleared, it was an act of creation. So this was their world. Strict rules, long days of backbreaking labor, bitter winters, and all of it was fueled by this deep, powerful hope that the struggle, that the sacrifice, that it would all be worth it for the generations that were going to come after them.
It's truly incredible to think about what they endured just to give their families a chance at something new. So now, I would love to hear from you. Do you have a family story that goes back this far, either to Boston or somewhere else in early America? Please share it in the comments below.